Our topic of discussion this morning, obviously, we are focusing on the Zambian film industry, and we did mention that we've got a whole lot of guests in studio that will help us really understand, what's happening as far as the industry is concerned, how best it can contribute to the development of this economy. Having said that, our first guest in studio is Sam Phiri, TV critic. I don't know how many of you have actually had, or either picked up a newspaper, and there's a column that comes through all the time, and you get to find out what's happening as far as the television industry is doing. So Antonio takes up that interviews. We get to find it really, how much of contribution is the media making in as far as telling the Zambian story is concerned. Antonio.
Good morning and welcome to Morning Live.
Thank you so much, Antonio.
Okay. Maybe let's begin by you telling us a bit about yourself.
My name is Sam Phiri. I work for the Sunday Times of Zambia, where I do my column, the TV critique, every Sunday. Positive criticism, of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was the last article you wrote on?
The last article I wrote on was entitled Matema, Eyes, Idols.
Okay. And what kind of responses do you get from people once these articles are written? Do they often slash back at you, or do they come back and say, you know what, you have a third eye on certain productions, and I think that helped me in this area and whatnot?
I think 90% of feedback that I get is very positive and very encouraging. I believe if I was getting 90% of otherwise, I think it would have discouraged me a long time ago. But seeing what response I get is really encouraging, and I can state here that the feedback I've been getting from ZNBC, especially ZNBC, is very encouraging, where if you, as a critique, points out something, they would get back to you, like through the corporate affairs manager. He would get back to you and say, really, I believe this is something we can work on. Not necessarily saying, we know what we're doing. I believe that's a way to go. If we want to grow in anything, should it be film, should it be talk shows, should it be anything, we believe critique is very important, it's very vital, and we believe that also a response and feedback to the person who has critiqued you is also very good.
Okay. What inspires your debates?
What inspires my debate is that, the fact that I love watching television, one thing, and also seeing Zambian productions compared to other countries' productions. I feel there's something that we really, really need to do, because as Zambia, I believe this is our country, and we need to put out the best. And the best, I feel, is not yet there. So if I can contribute at least even a 1% to add a step towards making something better, I believe my name will be written in the books of Zambian records to say, at least he added this, So I wouldn't want to see, like, for instance, one other time, there was a heated debate, which I'll never forget, on hair, on newscasters' hair, where I talked about a uniform. If you have got a specific hairstyle, maintain it. It brought on some debate. Others were saying it's boring to have the same kind of hairstyle. Others were saying you can't afford it, it's too expensive. Others said it's very true. So I really enjoyed that debate because it opened up some minds, and some people went further even into researching how a professional newscaster should be dressed, how many colors should she or he have on his body, all that stuff. The hairstyle, why should you standardize it to one instead of 3, 4, or 5? So all those answers came up, and some people came back to me and said, what you're saying is true. So they've been watching also other channels, international channels, where they've picked up to say, oh, what this guy was saying is absolutely true, because we can see even For instance, the name that came out so prominent was Christiana Amanpour from CNN, who has maintained her, I think, ID for a long time. So those are some of the things that really inspire me to say, okay, fine. If I can encourage someone, if I can talk to someone, they can also talk to me to say, my friend, the way you write, if you can do A, B, C, D, I believe that's what has built me to be one of the recognized writers in Zambia.
Okay, let's get to film now. A bit of a critique on the media at the moment. Are we doing enough to showcase Zambian productions?
Absolutely. To be honest with you, the efforts are there. The efforts by Zambians to bring out a film industry to life are there, but they lack creativity. Creativity is what is lacking in these films. We have got a lot of brilliant script writers, but they don't know where the key or the missing piece of the puzzle is for them to break into the international market, for instance.
What's that? What's the missing key?
I'll give you an example. I heard you in the preamble talk about the Nigerian film industry. To tell you the truth, it sounds funny, but believe you me, what has sold the Nigerian movie industry up to today for it to be amongst the top, it's witchcraft, African magic, and also the pidgin language. Spicing it up with the traditional attire which they wear. If you listen to the Nigerian movies, the way they speak, it doesn't mean that Nigerians can't speak straight English the way we speak. Pidgin is a mixture of English with some certain indigenous language. That surprised a lot of producers, international producers. Is this what really happens in that part of Africa? I think this is worth sponsoring so that we can at least have this kind of production out in the world. That's how those movies went out in Africa, and a lot of channels were produced based on massive Nigerian movies production. The sounds, picture was poor, but the story itself was rich. Trust me, the sound production, it was so poor that you couldn't even believe to say, why was this a story shown? But if you look at the storyline, there was something interesting. You know what I mean? That thing was an African story, an African tale, something unique about Africa.
They were telling stories about themselves.
They were telling stories about themselves, about their environment, where they live. They had moved out of the urban. You know what I mean? Urban setup, get into the village, get these, what do you call them, the Igwes, as if the Hoka, if you look at the Nigerian movies right now, you feel as if a lot of townships are ruled by Igwes. But that's just film, That's how they used to live some time back. So what I've seen here in our own country is that we have limited our storylines to the line of rail, which is, I think, to me, is not doing us justice. Because who doesn't know this kind of life that happens along the line of rail? If you just Google, you can be in UK, you can be in anywhere, you will find out, believe you me, you'll find out that everything that happens in Lusaka, including street vending, including everything, it will show how people live here in townships. But what people don't know about Zambia is about a place like, let's say, Shangombo. You know, I have, as a journalist, I've traveled to a lot of places outside Lusaka, where I've seen, I don't know what I can call it, heart-rending situations, you know. I have seen people taking water from the same stream with animals. You know what I mean? That is life. You know what I mean?
So in other words, the stories are not closer to reality in Zambia.
The stories are not very close.
But just in closing, Mr. Phiri, someone would say part of the reason that is happening is because of no proper corporate sponsorship. They'll say, would love to travel to those places, do research, even probably even live there for 3 to 4 months just to get it in, the kind of lifestyle that they do. I'll give you an example of that, the latest Mandela movie. The actor had to travel to South Africa all the way from the US of A and kind of live in the jail cell, suck it in that, you know, he's in the actual cell that Mandela was in and live a life there for a couple of days so that even when you get to do the role, it comes out like you're the actual person. So they'll say corporate sponsorship is not there.
True. I'm glad that you've mentioned Mandela's film. It's true that there are a lot of sponsors who have actually looked at Zambia and they've seen some potential storylines, for instance, of KK. And he's our first Republican president, that is. He has got a very, very, very rich story. But I've not seen any creative film writer sit down, take time to create a movie about the walk to freedom of Zambia from the time Kaunda was in his, I think, youth stage until when he got presidency, until maybe perhaps when he lost power, you know? So all that is a very rich story. But I don't think there's someone who has sat down to think and bring it out. Because these are some of the stories that we as Zambians lack. There was an interview that Franklin Tembo took recently on ZNBC where he interviewed Dr. Kaunda and some freedom fighters from their residence. I can't mention, but one of them was the VJ. Yes. So I learned a lot of stuff from there, which I didn't know. They were revealing to say, the former president nearly resigned one at a time. He left because people were not united. Now, if you listen to how he narrated that story and putting it into a movie, it can make a very good thing, very good.
I'm hoping a lot of filmmakers are watching and will obviously pick that as an idea. But before I let you go, have you seen any Zambian movie that you liked?
Yes.
Which one?
Mariposa.
Okay. Thank you so much, Sam Phiri, for coming through Morning Live.
Thank you so much.